We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, September 25th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kapki.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Also, Fabius with us.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. And as we approach the end of the work week, it's a good moment to reflect on Korea's place in the world. So South Korea wasn't always known well globally. There was a time when people would ask whether you were from North or South Korea. But today, with the global rise of K-pop, Korean films, and the country's technological advancements, Korea has become widely recognized on the international stage. That said, from the perspective of those who call this country home, what comes to mind first when you think of Korea, Kim?
A lot of things, but to just go back to when people would ask me like where I was from, I would say just Korea, not knowing that people didn't actually know it was separated. Oh, they did. Like I would think I was from South Korea, obviously, and then people would say, oh, so you're from North Korea. They didn't really know much about South Korea, and I thought, no, I'm from South. And they're like, no, you're from North. I'm like, and I would have to explain to them like where exactly I was from, and then they would only think about North as having like a nuclear state. They would be like, oh no, please don't hurt me, don't harm me. And I was going through a really hard time, especially growing up in Australia, where people didn't really know much about Korea. But one major international event that really put Korea on the map and elevated their status to a different level was the 2002 FIFA World Cup, where Korea co-hosted with Japan, and they actually made it all the way to the semifinals. They came fourth in the end, and because of this major achievement, everyone in Australia who enjoyed soccer especially thought of me as a cousin of Park Ji-sung, who is also a famous player who played for Manchester United in the English Premier League. And they were like, oh, you're from South Korea, oh, you guys are so good at soccer, like, can you teach me soccer as well? So they would immediately just know that I was from South Korea just by looking at my looks, appearance, and my name as well. If I said, oh, my name is Kyun Park, they're like, oh, Park Ji-sung, you're from South Korea. So because of this major event, I really thank Korea in general. But back in 2002, ever since that year, people would just know South Korea so much better. And I think that's, for me, on a personal note, that's how things started for me, being very proud to be a South Korean.
I guess that also means you were quite good at playing soccer.
I was okay.
You were okay.
I wasn't that
So did you
bad.
actually play along and say you were related to him?
Yeah, I did.
No way.
So what about you, Fabian?
Well, in my case, I have been living here in South Korea for more than 2 years as an expat. And I have to say that throughout time, my perception of South Korea has changed a lot. And I have to admit that even though I see the country now with different eyes, for a long time, I did see it as this very specific career brand for a few years, especially when K-pop was becoming very, very popular. But I do recall in 2012, I saw a Spanish news program talk about Gangnam Style, which is huge at the moment. And then I recall them saying that this might be the beginning of the new Korean cultural expansion. And I was thinking to myself, first of all, Korea, what is that? Because I was very young. And then I was like, I don't think that's going to happen soon for South Korea at all. And then 1 year later, I discovered K-pop, then I learned Korean, and now I'm living in South Korea. So it was very interesting to see how in those 13 years, not only my perception, but the whole world's perception of South Korea has been changed drastically.
So as Korea's presence on the global stage continues to grow, understanding its image has become more important than ever. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more. When you think of South Korea, what comes to mind first? Is it the dramas, the music, or the technological innovations? There's actually a wide range of things that people associate with Korea, reflecting the many accomplishments the country has made in recent years. We don't often stop to think about this, but it's especially important as Korea assumes a larger role in the world and gains greater visibility on the global stage. Today on News Generation, we'll take a closer look at a new survey that reveals how Korea is seen around the world and explore the factors shaping both positive and negative images of the country. As we just saw in the video, Korea's image abroad is shaped by many different elements from culture to technology. Together, these factors all play a role in how the country is seen on the world stage. And now a new survey has taken a closer look at what people believe makes something distinctly Korean. So can you tell us more about this survey and what the results revealed to you?
Sure thing. So the Korea Image Communication Research Institute recently released the results of a survey on what foreigners think is uniquely Korean, conducted with 406 participants, half of them as to Koreans and the rest as to foreigners. So let's take a look at the screen for more details. When asked about aspects of Korea's digital culture that foreigners would find especially interesting, both Koreans 86% and foreigners 92% chose K-dramas and films on OTT platforms, again highlighting the strength of the Korean wave or Hallyu. And to the question, what do you think foreigners associate with Koreanness? 95% of Koreans selected Hallyu again, the Korean wave, as the top answer. The second most chosen was advanced IT infrastructure, such as the super fast internet and the mobile technology at 53%, followed by a safe and an ordered society at 26%. And besides Hallyu and the fast internet that many are very familiar with, one incident I personally experienced last week was really highlighted the kindness of Korean people and like the general safety of the country, because I accidentally dropped my wallet in on a bus and I only realized I had left it in the bus soon, very much after the bus left. So I found out the bus company through my phone, which showed me all the information about the bus company. Again, great IT infrastructure of Korean apps. And the person who picked up the call said the only way to find your wallet is to wait for the bus driver to finish his last route. And if there's any like lost and found, that's the only way I can find out. So I had to wait until the next morning and hoping that somebody would have picked it up and handed it to the bus driver. And luckily, next morning I called, is there a wallet? Is there a black wallet? And he's like, yes, there is. And I said, that's amazing. So I went to pick it up the next day. And the worker who actually handed the wallet to me said, it must have been very uncomfortable for you losing that wallet, but please be careful because, I know how it feels to lose a wallet. It's the worst thing that could happen to you. And I thought, Korea is such a warm country. I mean, I'm not saying like other countries, people would have stolen the wallet, but I mean, usually if you find something, people might just pick it up. I mean, it's a wallet, right?
That is quite special.
Yeah, and it was an expensive one as well. But then just having that feeling very safe, even if you lose something, that you can, having that feeling of knowing that you can find it, I think that's an amazing kind of aspect of Korean culture and the country as well, especially for foreigners when they come to Korea. They can just leave their laptops lying around anywhere,
100%,
right.
and knowing that it'll be there when they come back, so which is quite different to other countries.
I feel like in the States, what really stood out to me was like you have to ask someone to watch your stuff, but you don't really do that
even in
Korea.
Australia, you have to do that
Totally.
as well.
Right,
Yeah.
so nothing was taken from your wallet.
Nothing.
That is very impressive. So looking at the survey, it's clear that K-drama and Korean films really carry Korea's image along with, of course, like safety, and both Koreans and foreigners have put them at the top of the list. So it's another reminder of just how strong Hallyu is. But how do foreigners see Korea? Do their answers match what Koreans think, Fabio?
Well, according to the same survey of the Korea Image Communication Institute, Hallyu, or the Korean wave, topped the list once again, with a huge gap in results, 93%. And this was followed by traditional aesthetics such as garments, architecture, and symbols. And then advanced IT technologies came in third place, which is a little bit different from the results that we saw with Korean people. And maybe that's because even though Korean technology is quite impressive to foreigners, it isn't the first image that blooms in the mind of foreigners when it comes to Korea. And I guess that K-pop albums or hanbok might be bigger cultural souvenirs or more representative images that people really tend to think about. But I do agree with Ki-hoon about the fact that safety in South Korea is one of the biggest points. And for foreigners that have lived and experienced the country, I feel like that could be the top of the list.
So as a foreigner living in Korea, would you agree with the results of the survey?
I do, 100%, because actually K-pop and K-dramas, even though they seem to lose a little bit of importance these days because there's a lot of popular aspects, they do remain the #1 reason why a lot of people get interested in the country in the first place. That is also my case. I feel like throughout the years there's been so many shifts. a few years back, it was almost like a otaku culture, very, very niche. So a lot of people wouldn't like to admit that they were part of that culture or they were interested in something so foreign. However, after some years, it became so mainstream that now it's like the contrary. A lot of people don't want to admit that their interest in Korea comes from K-pop because it's just a little bit too obvious. And I've seen that with a lot of friends that they say that they have been living in Korea for a lot, and most of the time it's just about they love Korean food, or they love hanbok, or they love very specific things, but then I do find out that they did support a very specific Korean K-pop group, or that was their initial process of liking the country. And I do relate with that thought process because I don't see K-pop representing my relationship with Korea that much these days, but it was the beginning of this whole journey.
So what kind of led you? Do you remember the group that led you to get interested in Korean culture?
Yes, it was back in 2013, and that was Girls' Generation, second gen K-pop.
That's where it's at. So what would you say now if someone asked you what you appreciate the most about Korea?
Well, I do feel like a few years ago, I would be a little bit ashamed to say that this whole process and this whole life came from that premise of liking K-pop. But now I feel really confident about it because nowadays K-pop is not part of my life. It's not something that I'm like extremely invested in. But at the same time, it really gave me a lot of opportunities and it really inspired me as a teenager. And so right now my relationship with Korea is very different. I appreciate it as a country that is very comfortable to live in rather than some very specific cultural aspects. But all of those things made me fall in love with Korea first and gave me the chance to explore the country.
Right, there are very many different aspects that people appreciate about Korea. And it's always clear there are a lot of factors that make Korea stand out. There's culture, entertainment, to technology and safety. And all these elements play a role in shaping how the country is seen around the world and contribute to Korea's growth and influence on the global stage. But what do our viewers think? So to find that out, we asked on the Arirang News YouTube channel, what does Koreanness mean to you? Here's what our viewers said. So 60% of respondents identify Hallyu, or the Korean wave, as the most prominent factor shaping Korea's image. This was followed by traditional beauty at 21%, advanced IT infrastructure at 10%, and public safety at 9%. These results highlight how cultural influence, technological advancement, social stability all contribute to the way Korea is being perceived globally. And to get a closer look at what really makes Korea stand out, we're going to talk to a foreign content creator who makes videos about Korean culture and everyday life. And that conversation will take right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Majid, a Korea-based YouTuber and content creator who shares his unique take on Korean culture and daily life. So hi Majid, thank you so much for joining us today.
안녕하세요, and hi, thank you so much for having me. Hi Sujin, hi Ki-hoon, and hi Fabio. You guys all look amazing.
Thank you, and so do you. So if you had to pick one thing that's truly Korean, what would it be?
Well, I was going through all the stats and surveys that you guys had, and after going through Gi-hoon's story about finding his wallet, I actually, what for me, what makes truly Korean is something a bit different that was not in the survey. I would talk about three things. Number one is Jong, so the Jeong, Jong. This word itself is so Korean that we don't even have an English word for it. So for me and for those people who don't know, Jong is like, it's difficult to describe, but it is invisible love and warmth among people. It's when people treat you as a family member, even though they're not your family member. For example, when you go to a mart and the ajuma scolds you because you're not wearing enough clothes in winter. Or I remember when I came to Korea, my jibjoin, my harmony, the landlord, she used to come and give me kimchi, or she would lower down the rent for me because I was an international student. And for example, like Gi-hoon's story, like people actually are so kind and helpful that they even give back the wallet they found. So this thing, the Jong is like, a Korean Wi-Fi that you don't see, but everyone is connected with each other. So this feeling of love, like a family, is one thing that for me is very Korean. secondly, I would say resilience. So Korea is basically a very resilient nation. So Korea has gone through Korean War, they have gone through colonization, they have gone through IMF crisis, but now Korea is an inspiring country. It's one of the G20 members, and soon it's gonna host APEC 2025. So the resilience and rising above from those past is what makes it very Korean also. So Jong, resilience, and last but not least, respect. I feel like respect is also another part that makes it very Korean. I love when people bow down when they greet someone, or they would use both hands, let's say, to give something to someone. I love that part. I love when people pour drink to the elders, or when they even drink and they move their head. So these three things, Jong, resilience, and respect, are the things that make it very Korean.
Wow, Majid, you're a true 대한 외국인. I mean, like you
대한
seem to
외국인.
know more about Korea than myself.
I love Korea. I love Korea. It's my second homeland.
Oh, that's good to hear. So, when you visited Korea, was there anything that surprised you, or wasn't what you really expected when you first came here?
Oh, well, by the way, how long this session do we have? Because I can talk about for 2 hours, but I guess we have like maybe 5 minutes or something. So of course there were a few things that were like shocking or a bit different. For example, the first thing I saw was how active and energetic the elderly people are. And when I used to go hiking, I could see more elderly people hiking in the mountains. I was like very surprised, and I respect those elderly people. So that was very because more than for young people, I could see a lot of harabojis and harmonies hiking the mountains. Another thing that was a bit different for me was the skincare culture. I love how Koreans love taking care of their skin. And that's why I also do. I learn a lot from Koreans. And right now, my home itself is like a mini Olive Young. I have a lot of Korean skincare products here. What else? I would say cute couples. I mean, I haven't seen that many cute couples back in my country, but in Korea, you see cute couples everywhere. Sometimes on Christmas or on Valentine's Day, if you are solo, you may feel sad. But apart from that, it looks beautiful. Couple wearing, couple clothes. Everything is makes it very unique. Yeah, these things, or drinking culture was also one of the things that I found a bit different from where I came from.
Okay, so now one very short question. If you would
Sure.
be able to like say that there's something distinctively Korean that you would like to try or experience, what would be that one thing?
Well, even though I've been living in Korea for a long time, and one thing I always say I haven't tried is to spend Chuseok with a Korean family.
Oh,
So
Chuseok.
Chuseok is coming, and I know, of course, when there are some events, let's say Eid, some festival, Eid, I always go back to Pakistan and celebrate Eid with my family. When I was in America, I even saw Thanksgiving. I celebrated Thanksgiving with an American family. But so far in Korea, I haven't celebrated Chuseok. So I would like to wear hanbok. I would like to bow down to elders, and I would like to make maybe songpyeon, the tok, or even receive the sebetdon, like the
Sebetdon.
money from the elders. So I hope that one day I would be able to try, because I know it's gonna be a life-changing experience and a unforgettable memory for me. So that's one thing I hope one day I would be able to try.
Well, I feel like you highlighted things that even I didn't really think about, and I really think people like you live in Korea makes this country a better place. So also thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful Chuseok ahead, all of you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we just spoke with a content creator who shared his experiences in bringing Korean culture to a global audience. It's clear that there are many factors that make Korea unique. The survey also looked at this from a broader perspective. So what did it say are the factors that help shape Korea's reputation in a positive way, Kim?
So both Koreans and foreigners answered that the global success of Korean dramas and films contribute the most to creating a positive image of Korea. Ranked second was global tours by K-pop artists, and then third was the Korean-winning Nobel Prize in Literature by Hanggang. So this shows that achievements in cultural fields, from popular culture to fine arts, have played a key role in enhancing the nation's image.
So this shows that a country's image isn't built by one thing alone. Popular hits are what draw people in, but cultural milestones show that Korea is serious about creativity and innovation on multiple levels. So how has Korean entertainment grown and evolved and populated recently? Are there new trends that have added depth to Korea's image, Fabio?
So I'll just name very fast a few trends that are going on right now. We obviously have K-pop Demon Hunters, which is the most seen Netflix movie of all time and topping all the charts. We have Hangang in literature, winning the Nobel Prize. We also have the philosopher Han Byung-chul gaining the respect of Spanish citizens and gaining one of the biggest honors in Spain. And then we also have football players like Son Heung-min, or the 13 gold medals that Korea won, 5 of them in archery in the Olympic Games in Paris. So there's a lot of things going on. It seems like every 2 months, Korea has a very big hit.
So you mentioned K-pop Demon Hunters, which we've also covered on the show before. It's really fascinating to see how like a mega successful show can spark global interest in all their aspects of Korea as well, from historic sites to literature as well. But it's not all positive, unfortunately, when it comes to Korea's image. There are also factors that have cast a less favorable light on the country. So according to this survey, what has contributed to the more negative perceptions of Korea?
So there are 2 sides to every page. And in response to the question about recent issues that have negatively affected Korea's image, both Koreans, 80%, and foreigners, 81%, most frequently cited extreme ideological polarization. And this was followed by erupting social conflicts and an overly competitive culture and stress in that order.
And this is quite similar to what we see in the US right now, where political polarization and social tensions have become highly visible. So just like in Korea, these internal divisions can shape how the country is perceived abroad, showing that a nation's image isn't defined only by its achievements, but also by its challenges. So would you say, do you agree with these results? And are there social issues in Korea that you feel like aren't openly discussed or considered somewhat taboo that could benefit from more attention?
Definitely. If we compare with the Western cultures, South Korea right now doesn't really engage in very deep social topics. It seems like the country has developed its IT and infrastructure very fast in the past few years, but there's a lot of discussions that are not taking place in the same way that is happening right now in Europe or the US. For example, when we talk about feminism, gender roles, LGBTQ rights, rights of workers, no exploitation, also anti-discrimination laws, and mental health awareness, these are all facts that, there are conversations that they're not really taking place deeply right now in Korean media, or they're not part of the mainstream. So it seems that a lot of minorities right now are largely excluded from the main conversation, which might be a little bit hard not only for foreigners living in the country, but also for Koreans that belong to those minorities that don't really find a place here in the country.
I agree. I agree that open conversation is really the start to raising awareness. So from the explosive popularity of K-dramas and K-pop to groundbreaking achievements in technology and literature, Korea continues to capture the world's attention. Its rich cultural traditions, innovative industries, and creative storytelling not only entertain, but also leave a lasting positive impression. And at the same time, there are areas where greater openness and dialogue could help, issues that are still sensitive or rarely discussed. And if left unaddressed, these divides, similar to those we see in other countries, could hamper the growth of Korea's image. So recognizing both the strengths and the challenges gives us a fuller and more balanced understanding of Korea today. So this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Ki-hoon
Always a pleasure.
and Fabio.
It was so fun.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are
News Generation.